There's a specific kind of pain that only Toonami kids will understand. It's not like cancellation anywhere else. When a normal show gets cancelled, you are sad, but you move on. When Toonami adopts a show, and when Tom puts it on that block, that show sticks with you. And when those shows disappeared, some of them never really left us. Today, we're talking about 5 shows that Toonami fought for. They championed, and in some cases, literally tried to resurrect, and how close we came to actually getting them back. Because the story of Toonami isn't just about what it saved, it's about everything it almost saved, and one thing it saved that nobody expected it to. Before we get into the list, I need to take a second to explain why Toonami specifically matters here, because this isn't just a cancelled shows video. Toonami was never a passive platform. From the very beginning, the people running that block, Jason DeMarco and the whole crew, actually cared about the shows they aired. They fought Cartoon Network executives for airtime, and they wrote letters and made calls, and they built communities around these shows that was unlike anything else on television at the time. Tom wasn't just a mascot, he was a promise. When Toonami picked up your show, it meant someone with taste and passion had looked at it and said this deserves to be on our network. Which makes it so much more heartbreaking when some of the shows we're about to talk about didn't actually make it. And it wasn't for a lack of love, and it was definitely not for a lack of trying. We're starting with Mega's XLR as our first show, because it might be the purest example of what Toonami fandom looks like when it goes to war for a show. For anyone who doesn't know, Mega's XLR premiered on Cartoon Network in 2004. It's about a slacker from New Jersey named Coop, who finds a giant robot from the future in a junkyard, slaps a 70s muscle car on top of it, and proceeds to accidentally save the universe while destroying everything around him constantly. It was loud and it was stupid, but it was really good and it understood the assignment it was trying to pick up completely. Toonami picked it up and the fans went absolutely feral for it. The show had the perfect energy. It was a love letter to every giant robot anime you'd ever seen, but it was filtered through this weird Jersey City energy. Nothing took itself seriously, everything was fun, and it was yours in a way that imported anime couldn't be sometimes. Cartoon Network cancelled it after 2 seasons. There was no warning and no finale to this show. Coop and the gang just stopped showing up one Saturday and never came back. What followed was one of the earliest examples of an organised online fan campaign to save a cartoon. There was petitions, forum threads, letters to Cartoon Network. The Toonami fanbase mobilised in a way that was honestly predetermining everything we'd see from fan communities later on. It didn't work, but here's the thing. Mega's XLR never fully died either. It lived in the reruns of Toonami, long after its actual run ended. Long enough that a whole second wave of kids discovered it and fell in love with it. Long enough that it became a cult classic instead of a forgotten footnote. I was probably too young to enjoy the show on the original run, but the reruns I could definitely catch. The right situation today is a nightmare though. Multiple parties are involved, there's no home release, not even available to stream legally anywhere. This show should be everywhere, but it's basically never going to be anywhere, and Toonami fans have never stopped being angry about that. Well, if Mega XLR was the comedy entry on this list, Symbionic Titan is going to be the tragedy. This show I enjoyed very much. It premiered in 2010. It was created by Genndy Tartakovsky, the same guy behind Samurai Jack and the original Clone Wars micro-series. If you know those 2 shows, you already know what that name means. Genndy does not make bad television. He makes television that people remember. Symbionic Titan follows 3 aliens, a princess, her bodyguard, and a robot, who crash land on Earth. They disguise themselves as a suburban family and fight off monsters sent by the warlord who took over their original home planet. On paper, it kind of sounds like every other generic alien show, but in execution, it was something completely different. The show balanced massive mecha battles with genuinely emotional character work. The bodyguard, Lance, one of the most compelling protagonists Cartoon Network ever put out, and the Princess Ilana had an arc that was building towards something genuinely, I believe, to be meaningful. And God, the action sequences. I mean, Genndy was just being Genndy here. They were absolutely stunning. Cartoon Network, however, cancelled this after 1 season. The reason given? Toys. The show couldn't secure a toy deal at all. Without merchandise revenue, the network wouldn't greenlight a second season. So one of the most beautifully crafted animated shows of its generation was killed because it didn't have enough plastic figures to sell at Target. It's kind of something we've seen before from Cartoon Network, unfortunately. Toonami fans petitioned. Genndy himself has spoken out about wanting to return to the story. As recently as a few years ago, he confirmed the show's ending was planned and fully formed in his head. The character's got resolution in his mind, if nowhere else, but we never get to see it. And that ending is just still sitting there, in Genndy's head, waiting for a network brave enough to finish what he started. Please, someone do that. Okay, this one hurts. Specifically because it's probably my favorite on this list. I know it, you probably know it, let's talk about it. It's Thundercats 2011. It's a reboot of the classic 80s property handled by a Japanese animation house in collaboration with Warner Brothers. And what came out of it was a partnership of the most visually stunning animated series of basically this entire block. This wasn't just a cash grab nostalgia reboot, which it could have been because it's Thundercats. This was genuinely a beautiful reimagination of Thundercats from the 80s, but with new ambition, mythology, and a long-term storyline that had clearly been mapped out. Lion-O's arc in this show was something pretty cool. He starts as a naive, reckless prince who romanticizes the technology his people have completely outlawed. And the entire series is about him being proved right, but in the worst possible way. And then he has to grow up fast enough really quickly outside of this kingdom to survive this. The world building was super rich, the villains were layered. Mum-Ra in this version was genuinely terrifying. It's for sure my favorite version of Mum-Ra. Toonami aired it and found its audience almost immediately. The block was a perfect home for it. It was big action, long-form story, and it was exactly what those late-night viewers were there for. Cartoon Network cancelled it after one season though. There was 46 episodes planned and 26 were made. The show ends mid-arc basically. Lion-O's journey isn't complete. Characters introduced as clearly important to the larger story just don't get what they're supposed to. And unlike some cancellations where you can kind of squint and find closure, I kind of see what they were going there. There's none of that here. It just stops, basically as if it stopped mid-sentence. The creative team has spoken out about what the full story would have looked like. Ancient spirits, revelations about the Third Earth, a payoff to setups that casual viewers might have not even noticed were setups. But it was all there. It was all planned. And we got just over half of it. Thundercats 2011 has a fan base that genuinely never moved on. I am one of them. So go find those communities right now. They're still there, they're still passionate, and honestly, they're angry, and they have every right to be. Okay, the big O. This is where the list gets genuinely wild, because this isn't just a story about a show that got cancelled. This is a story about Toonami literally going to bat for a show in a way no Western broadcast platform had done up until that point. The Big O is a 1999 anime from Sunrise, the studio behind Gundam. It's set in Paradigm City, a noir metropolis where everyone has lost their memories. The protagonist, Roger Smith, is a negotiator who pilots a giant robot called the Big O. The show is a part mecha action, part detective noir, part existential crisis, and it asks questions about memory and identity and reality that it absolutely does not have the chance to answer. Season 1 aired in Japan, and it was cancelled due to low ratings, and that should have been the end. But low ratings means a cheap show for globalization. So Toonami looked at this show, loved it, and picked it up. And then the American response was enormous. Fans went crazy for it. The ratings Cartoon Network was pulling in for the Big O was so strong that they went back to Sunrise with a proposition. We will co-finance a second season if you make it. That is extraordinary. I don't believe a Western TV block co-producing a Japanese animated show because of a fanbase demanding it had happened yet. Toonami's fingerprints are all over the second season, but this is kind of crazy. I think they did a similar thing with Ultimate Muscle, if anyone remembers that show, but I think that was years later. This is the first time I can remember this being a thing. So season 2 got made. And it's even more ambitious and strange and philosophical than season 1. And it ends on a finale that has been debated on for over 20 years. A meta-surrealist conclusion that deliberately refuses to resolve any of the central mysteries of the show. Some people think it's genius and love it. Some people think it's a cop-out and are not so sure. But nobody agrees on what the actual thing means. And season 3, well, again, just never happened. The co-production deal didn't extend that far, and Sunrise rightfully moved on. Cartoon Network also moved on though, and The Big O was a show that only got a second life because Toonami fans loved it, ended up ending without ever fully getting to explain what that story meant. The cruel irony is that without Toonami, season 2 would never exist. But with Toonami, we got just enough to make that ending hurt even more. And now we get to the one that nobody sees coming. It's not even a show, because in 2008, Cartoon Network cancelled Toonami. Just like that, 25 years of building the greatest action animation block in television history, and one day it was just gone. Replaced by live-action programming, reality shows, stuff that had no business being on Cartoon Network. The fans were devastated. Forums went dark, tribute videos flooded YouTube. People who had grown up with Tom and the Block wrote actual eulogies. It felt like losing something you didn't know could be lost. And then something happened that was almost impossible. It had never happened in the precedent of television history before. April Fool's Day 2012, Adult Swim, Cartoon Network's late-night programming block, ran a fake Toonami broadcast as a joke. Tom came back for it, the music came back, they aired Bleach and Ghost in the Shell. It was supposed to be a one-night gag, but the response was so overwhelming, so immediately there, so emotional, so loud, people shouted about it, that Adult Swim stopped treating it as a joke almost immediately. Within weeks, they announced Toonami was returning as a permanent addition to Adult Swim's block. Not as a nostalgia stunt, as a real ongoing programming block that exists to this day. It's still there. Think about what that means. The fans of those cancelled shows, the Mega XLR petitioners, the Symbionic Titan campaigners, the Thundercats faithful. Hello? They were all part of a community that Toonami built. And that community cared so much that they literally willed the block of shows back into existence. Toonami almost saved 5 shows, but failed. However, the fans, well, they saved Toonami. And somehow that feels like the most Toonami thing that could have ever have happened. Here's what I keep coming back to though, when I think about all this. I don't think any of these shows failed. That's the thing I think that needs to be stated clearly. Mega's XLR didn't fail. Symbionic Titan didn't fail. And God, Thundercats 2011 didn't fail. They were failed by toy deals, network politics, and executives who looked at something genuinely special and just saw a liability instead of the legacy that it truly was. Toonami saw what they actually were, and it fought for them in the only way it could, by giving them a home, by giving them an audience, and by giving them the ability to build a community around them, to carry these shows forward even after the credits roll for the last time. We didn't get the endings we deserved, but we got something maybe more valuable. The proof that what we watched together actually mattered, that there was a real Toonami fanbase. And that, I think, is more important. If any of these shows hit you right in the childhood, drop it in the comments. And the other thing I need you to comment about is there any shows I missed that deserve to be on this list? Because there are definitely more. So let me know about that, and subscribe. Thanks for doing all that. Keep staying up late, keep watching, and I'll see you in the next one. I've been Yugi Joe, and peace.